Okay, so good morning, everyone. How are you doing?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. So let me share the screen. Okay, so uh, yeah, just for your information, so tomorrow we will be having session for ML, and so kindly attend if you feel. I mean, probably you need fundamentals on ML, or probably if you have some doubts. So Rahul will be taking that. One thing, another thing you can do, or probably let him complete first session. If required, we can do another session like NLP. So for NLP, for NLP, we will be doing another session next week. So as I have posted here, so please post what are the other topics you want us to cover. So it seems no one has commented, because that will be easier for us to follow what are the other topics you want us to cover. So yeah, so in reply to this particular thread, please comment. Okay, so in addition to that, yeah, so as you recall, I mean, there is a group presentation schedule in this course as well. So from next week onwards, we will be starting. From next week onwards, we'll be starting group presentation. So what we will do, we'll share a sheet today. So please write down the topics that you'll be presenting. Again, so the topic for the presentation need not necessarily has to be uh, your course project, right? It could be different, and probably we can mention some of the key points, or probably the section that we want to see in your presentation. So kindly follow the given guideline. And one more thing, like so we will be randomly assigning who will be doing presentation in which week. Yeah, so we won't have much control over that. So whatever the week is assigned to you, so please try to yeah, follow that. And let's hope, I mean, in the worst case, I mean, if some of you probably not able to attend, at least you will have to inform us immediately, so that we can, if required, we can probably make we can reschedule if possible. Yeah, but most likely we are going to follow what the random assignment will be there. Okay, so that is regarding presentation. So regarding course projects, so have everyone finalized the course project now, or is there any project, any group which still want to explore which project they want to do? Because the your project proposal deadline is coming soon. I need to check which day is that, but yeah, so that will be probably within a week or 10 days. So yeah, so where are we? I mean, have we finalized the course project for your course? Any group which still in the process of finalizing their course project? Anyone? So should I treat it this silence as yes, you have finalized the course project? Okay, so let me randomly select some course project, and probably let's. It's not about to judge you, but it's more about just to get to know. I mean, yeah. So how we are approaching, what are the direction we are doing. So for example, suppose there is a group 10. So is there any member from group 10 here? Sakshi, Sankalp, Tanisha, Tanishka, sorry, and Akshata. Anyone here from group 10?
Yes, sir.
So, Sankalp, would you like to just briefly explain what you are planning to do as part of the course project? And is it your final course project?
Yes, sir. We have thought to select this topic. So what we were thinking was there is a SIGIR 2020 paper with the same title. So
Mm-hmm.
what they were doing in that was so original work in recipe retrieval is to like basically they have a text corpus of ingredients, and from they retrieve the recipe and the final dish. So in
Mm-hmm.
the new thing was that the ingredients was given as the image of the ingredients was given as input, and on the basis of that we are retrieving the final dish. So
So so ingredients image is given, or
yeah, the image, the ingredients image is given as input to the model, and the final dish should be retrieved.
yeah, so the output will be which dish is that.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so have they already released the data set?
They have released the dataset, but link was not working for us, so we will be making the dataset on our own.
Okay, so in that case, I mean, probably it require efforts in labeling as well. Do you require the labeling?
No, no. Like there is like standard dataset in this domain, so the recipe 5K and so on. We will be using standard datasets, and for the visual images of the ingredients, we would be using like Google search and yeah.
Okay.
We have written a script, so we will be scripting it on the basis of that.
And probably the last question, how it will be different from the SIG-IR paper that you're referring? I mean, what part you're planning to change?
So we have to think about that. We are planning to introduce some novelty.
Okay, no issue. No issue. Okay, nice. Okay, any other group? So for example, yeah, so group 16, anyone from group 16 here? Avnish, Chetan, Nidhi, Prakriti, Vandana.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so would you like to tell about the project? I mean, is it finalized? And if so, then what do you plan to do in this course project?
Yes, sir. It is finalized project, and it's a engineering something based project. Like we are given a bulk of data, and we are trying to find all possible way in which we can retrieve the query or any other things from that data as soon as possible. Earlier, there are few systems already done, so we are trying to make them improvise by reading those papers and other systems what detailing they are done.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any specific paper you are following?
No, sir. Now we have not decided any specific paper. We have just shot out some bunch of papers, but not a particular one. We are working on that.
Okay, nice. So probably one last one. How about something different? So how about detecting opinion, facts, and fake news in tweets? So Aditya, Bhavesh, Mayank, Muhammad, or Tushar, anyone?
Yeah, hi. Am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so like this is like yet to be finalized. We are 90% sure we'll do this. We were about to have a meeting with the TA, but due to some reason TA didn't show up. Uh, so we are planning to classify like opinion, facts, and fake news. There
So
are
please drop an email to the TA today again, and probably if required, keep me in CC. If the
right.
TA won't be available, I can join and probably help you.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. So as most of you have already finalized your course project, that's nice. If you still have some doubt, please set up a call with the TAs, me, whatever is suitable to you. We'll be very happy to help you. Okay. Yeah, but please try to complete this task at most by this week, because yeah, otherwise you don't have enough time to perform the literature survey or write the project proposal. So it's better to start early. And yeah, so there are different constraints that you have to think, whether the data set is available or not, how big is the data set. Similarly, what are the other resources which are available, how complex is the problem. So just consider all those aspects and finally decide which course project you are going to have, whether you are going to have the engineering based track or probably the research based track. So just take your call, and discussion with the probably the TAs and myself will help you to finalize that. Okay, so we can get started with the course now. Yeah, just to reiterate those who joined late, yeah, probably from next week onwards, we'll be starting the course presentation, not course presentation, the group presentation. So where you need to have probably any course, any work, we will probably sharing the guideline letter today, and based on that, you have to do the presentation. Okay. Okay, so let's get started with the information retrieval indexing that we are studying in the last lecture. So in the last lecture, we discussed about why do we need to consider the scalable indexing techniques, because we have discussed that probably the main memory is not enough often if you have a big data for indexing. That's why you need kind of scalable indexing techniques. So specifically, we discussed two scalable indexing technique. What is the first is the sort sort block sorting based indexing, and second is the single pass in memory indexing, right? So specifically, we discussed these two techniques. Would anybody like to just briefly summarize what are they and what we have discussed? Anyone?
Sir,
Yeah, please go ahead.
block sort based indexing, so basically the assumption is we have large amount of data, we can't sort right away in memory because we need to do a lot of sorting to form the posting list and basically the inverter index. So basically we divide them into chunks, and then we basically do the same steps as in tokenizing and accumulating the term and document pairs. And one difference is that in BSBI we basically use the term ID, so we need an additional step of mapping the terms to term ID, so we need a data
Very nice.
for that too. And we basically do this in chunks, store it in disk, and then at the last step, we basically merge these blocks. So basically it requires two passes through the data. And single pass in memory indexing basically addresses some shortcomings of that, as in it does not do sorting explicitly, it maintains a dictionary for each block. And then basically the list is dynamic, as in the posting list is basically doubled if we run out of space. So since there is no sorting, there is no need of that auxiliary data structure, which in itself may be huge. And basically it uses terms instead of term IDs, unlike BSBI.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, so you have, yeah, so kind of perfectly summarized both. So yeah, so those who want to look again, I recommend to probably just go back to chapter 4 that we will be sharing, and in fact I already shared. Yeah, so we discuss about yeah, so I mean these two techniques, and further we have given a kind of very brief overview. So often, I mean, both technique that we have discussed is kind of again indexing technique for a single computer, right? For a single computer, when you have probably when the main memory is not enough, in that case probably you can use this for doing the indexing and so on. So again, so so we have discussed these two scalable techniques, how you can perform the indexing on the single computer. But how about, but often probably a single computer may also not be enough, may not be enough for performing the indexing, right? So this is one reason. So that's why probably you need to perform a distributed indexing, so that you can basically create indexes when the data is distributed over you can say the different computers, or even when probably it is not feasible to probably perform indexing on a single computer, right? So that's why we need distributed indexing. And specifically, I mean, distributed indexing is used when we have fairly large data set, and which is very distributed. So for example, World Wide Web, so you have documents which are very large in size in terms of number, as well as they are distributed over, you can say, the different places, like geographically as well as probably the way they are created. So in that case, probably we need to think of, or probably we need to think of some distributed computing so that we can efficiently create the indexes. And that's how we are going to discuss today in the distributed indexing.
Sir, I need to ask something from the last class.
Yeah.
Sir, in case of the block-based indexing, there was a thing called multi-way merge where we were keeping pointers for each block and then we were comparing and merging. So, is it possible to at a time keep as RAM जो होती है, it reads block, it is block-based reading. मतलब वो एक block को एक साथ read करते, it cannot read a part of it. So, is it possible कि it is reading all so many blocks at a time?
The thing is, I mean, it may not be possible to keep all the blocks in the memory, right? So that was the reason, I mean, you are doing so. So that is the reason we have discussed in the previous class. What you have to do, you probably need to only keep the part of that block in the memory. So for example, because these blocks are already kind of sorted, right? I mean, when they are stored in the different blocks. So just take the probably the say part of the block, say initial say 10%.
So I think that's what she's saying, that that's not possible in memory. Like whenever a read or write happens in memory, that happens in the size of this whole block, not partial block. That it's not possible according to the hardware.
No. So the thing is, when it is read, right? So it is read in chunks, right? I mean, again, probably in the chunks of, if we recall, I mean, it was in the size of say 4 KB, 8 KB, 16 KB, and so on, right? So you read only that much which are feasible, right? Whichever you can accommodate in the memory.
So the size of our block can be different from the actual 4 KB block that is in memory, right?
No, yeah. So that you can define, right? I mean, how again we will have to look at the implementation, how it is implemented there. But I believe, I mean, you can keep it the different block size, right? Because you as a disk reading, I mean, you need to read chunks, right? So that chunks could be as we have discussed, it could be 8 KB, 16 KB, or probably something like that, right? So when you read, I mean, probably you read only the part of that, and probably keep only the initial part of the block, and probably read. You can keep a kind of read buffer in the memory where you keep reading and probably keep only that part which you are, because often they are in sorted order, right? So you only need to keep the initial part and keep reading and probably keep updating with the rest part of the block in the memory, in the disk.
Yeah, got it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so let's go back to the distributed indexing. Yeah, so as we have just discussed, right? So often the distributed indexing is required for when you have the web scale index, very huge data that you have. So that's why people must use distributed computing cluster instead of just doing at home. So we have also briefly discussed what this computing cluster is. So a cluster here means, a computing cluster here means a very tightly coupled computers. Again, so they may not have to be very, you can say the supercomputer or something. It could be probably all very normal computers that you have, but they are very closely connected over the network, and probably they are closely interact among each other, and so that they can divide the work or probably complete the tasks together. And so it's kind of, you have distributed computing cluster in which if you want them to work together, so often you need some kind of master among them, right? So that's why when you're working with a computing cluster, often there is a concept of master computer, or probably the master node, which controls among all the other computers in the cluster. And basically the master decide who will be doing what. Master will also be responsible to keep track if what happens if something fails down. So for example, the second point here, so individual machines are fault prone, right? So it some fault can come, right? And probably not all machines probably work at the same pace, right? So for example, while working, I mean, so hardware probably, for example, you have the GPU, right? So GPU fan probably gets old because some of the GPU which are probably the new in other computer, they work fairly well, but as compared to probably the GPUs in some other computer in the cluster, which is probably old and something, may not probably work well or probably work slow. For example, often some computer may probably have the high-end GPUs. So for example, recent 3090 Ti, but probably the other clusters may have say 1080 Ti. So again, I mean, they are different in terms of capability. They different probably in terms of uh, in terms of fault tolerance. So that's why we need kind of master which continuously keep track of firstly keep track of whom to divide what work based on the capability, and once it divide, it also need to keep track of who is doing what, whether the person is doing, I mean, the assigned computer is doing well or not, which it's supposed to be. Once the task the computer is doing, probably we need to assign another task when he's done, or probably when some computer is probably lagging behind uh, as compared to probably the other cluster. In that case, we can give or probably share its processing task with some other fast computers and so on. So that's why in case of distributed computing cluster, we may need to have a master node which basically help you in coordination among all computing cluster. So I have one question here. So in case of normal, I mean, other nodes failed, I mean, the master node can decide, okay, so if this particular node is not able to perform the task, so that master node basically assign the task to some other computer. But what if the master node itself, probably because the master node is also fault prone, right? I mean, that some fault can also come there. So how to deal with this such cases if something happens to a master node?
So we can randomly choose a master node from the other nodes if the master node fails.
Okay.
Sir,
Any other comments, additional comments?
Sir, we can have a vote for master
Sorry, I cannot hear you. Could you please be loud?
Sir, we can have a voting for master node, selecting the master node.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can select the master node from the all available nodes.
Yeah. So in a way, I mean, yeah. So if because if probably the master node is not responding, right? So yeah, we need some mechanism. So that mechanism could be voting. That mechanism could be something else. So that probably even you can probably have a keep duplicate master node. So once probably one master node stop working, or you can see the primary master node and secondary master node, right? So once probably the master node stop reacting or probably responding, in that case the secondary master node probably take over the task and probably perform the thing. So again there could be probably other ways of fault tolerance mechanism that we'll be discussing. So one thing probably I will do sometime probably the next week, or probably after that, probably once we complete the indexing, I'm planning to probably invite a industry expert who can share how the distributed computing happens. I mean, such big companies where they have huge amount of data, big data, how do they basically perform distributed indexing in that case? How do they basically perform Hadoop, and they use Hadoop or MapReduce and all those techniques that will be, I mean, we will be discussing briefly theoretically here. So we can basically get the industry experience from that expert probably in the coming week. So let's see, I mean, once we finalize it, I will share more details. Yeah, so how do we exploit such pool of machines? So yes, the master node basically help you to have perform the better coordination, and finally we'll see how the distributed indexing work.
Sir, would it be possible to implement a peer-to-peer network without any master?
It depends on the architecture that you have, right? I mean, the peer-to-peer thing you can also do, but that you also that can do. But in case of at least this architecture, right? So it expect to have some master, right?
Okay, sir.
So web search engine data to data centers. So can anybody define what data center is? Anyone?
Sir, large spaces with stored data of users.
Okay.
It's a kind of warehouse where many commodity computers and many computers are actually there.
Very nice.
Heavy computation.
Mm-hmm. So, and why do we need data centers, by the way? Anyone?
Have a large number of remote storage, and we can distribute a large amount of data between in our servers, and we can also do data processing in the servers.
That's nice. And what are the other benefit having data center? For example, so Facebook, I mean, headquarters in US, right? So how the data center basically help Facebook, for instance, to probably do their business?
Sorry, in recommendations.
Okay.
So the data centers have means high processing computers which can retrieve the data from that large storage quickly, and that helps them retrieving means giving the users a more smooth experience.
So how it can do quickly? Any guess?
So, sir, the data centers are distributed around the world. So, like if we are in India, so anything we are searching from India, that is something extracted from the data center that is located in India. So we
Very
can
nice.
reduce the latency of
Very nice. Yeah, very
process.
Anyone else?
Yes, sir. So we can distribute the load among the servers and all the nodes in the data center, and also there are already servers over there, so maintenance is only done by data centers. So maintenance is not done from our side. The basic maintenance of hardware, and also like that we can have high performance.
Probably we are still missing one of the most important part. How the data center basically can help, and probably the whatever the cloud services that you have can help.
Like
if some
Security.
Yeah, Divya, please go ahead.
Sir, security.
Yeah, security is one aspect. Yeah, very nice.
And
Anything else?
data migration is not, it's very costly to do data migration from one place to another. So we are maintaining data centers for that. And also data centers are like, they are the warehouses. So we can say scalability is also a major factor that we can consider for the data centers.
Very nice. Niskars, you want to add something?
I just wanted to add a safety point. Like if one of the data centers even get some physical damage, like due to some calamities and all, the other data centers can basically may give a little latency, but they can take over the work of that data center, which that is possible in distributed processing.
So another thing, I mean, yeah, so all these points are correct. So another thing is probably you may have seen. So for example, often you see, I mean, like Amazon sell or probably Flipkart sell or something, right? So that kind of sell basically increase the uses, or you can say the requirement, or you can say requires scalability very, very on short notice, right? And you need to probably provide because, for example, often you have limited, I mean, all the website or probably all the server that you have that is hosted on some website which has limited bandwidth or probably the competition power, right? If suddenly instead of suddenly probably if your website probably can support say 10,000 user, and suddenly probably 1 million people have start using because it's a sale or something, right? Your server will crash. I mean, you'll not able to probably for example, you might have seen something happens in during IRCTC, right? At the I mean the Tatkal booking time, right? So the number of users suddenly increased very significantly as compared to probably the rest part of the time, right? So it means probably you need to provide a more, you can say I mean it's more kind of very scalable in nature, or you can say the your based on your requirement, dynamic requirement, you need to keep changing the uses. So and one drawback of having all computers at the, I mean, because one possibility could be just consider what is the peak, or you can say the maximum number of user you want to cater, and keep using that amount of server all the time. But one drawback with that will be, I mean, you will have to pay unnecessary for the time when you don't have that much user, right? So that is kind of going to cost you a lot. So one possibility could be, yeah, so probably For example, between 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., I mean, the number of users very, very high. So probably during that time, probably we may have extra server dynamically, I mean, based on the requirement. And probably for the rest of the time, you can just simply use probably less amount of things. So data center basically can also help you. I mean, data center basically also help you in storing data, retrieving the people, data, I mean, all the providing the services to the people on the fly. So probably for the web search data center like Google, Bing, Baidu, so they are kind of mainly containing commodity machines. So data centers are, as you know, is distributed around the time. So someone has rightly mentioned, yeah. So based on the geographical location of the request, you can provide you can serve the request from the, I mean, some data center around that. So probably it will take the less turnaround time to process the request. So for example, this is the stats of 2007, when Google has 1 million servers. So I'm sure, I mean, this has significantly basically improved since then. And now there are many other companies which has come to the market. So now even the Microsoft, probably many companies basically they are came into this area and probably working. So now when you work with the data center, right? So often whenever you work with the data center, they basically mention like uptime. So often you won't see probably any server or probably any data center we say they have 100% uptime, because when they commit 100% uptime, I mean, it means, I mean, they will have to provide the you can say the computation power all the time and without any failure. But since it's a distributed system, any system can fail anytime. So that's why often such data center come up with a note. Yeah, so they come up with a note which says that each node has say 99% uptime. So like in that case, the more uptime is there, I mean, probably the cost is higher. So for example, in this case, so when we say the uptime is 37%, it means probably the 60% of 63% of the time, one or more servers is down in the cluster, right? So yeah, so if you want to have a system, because it also depends on what kind of application you are hosting. So for example, if it is banking application, right, in that case you don't want I mean, probably if it's stock application, in that case, yeah, so you need probably uptime all the time, right? Because the things may change in very, very less frequent of time. But if, so for example, if some gaming app or probably some just browsing or something, in that case it's fine. I mean, you can have data center cloud computing where basically you have less uptime is fine, because sometime it is fail, I mean, probably it will be recovered in few seconds or something, which is basically acceptable in case of normal application. So distributed index, so that's why you need to create a distributed index. So as we have discussed, so we need to have master machine directing the indexing job, and which is also considered safe. And probably we break up the indexing into set of parallel tasks, because in your distributed cluster you have a number of computers to help you or probably divide the task. So what you can do, basically the master can divide the task into small tasks and assign to the different cluster computer that you have. So it's more like breaking up indexes into small set of tasks, parallel tasks, and master machine assign each task to the idle machine from the pool, and that's way basically it distributed indexing work.
Sir, I have one doubt. Sir, like you told, master machine assigns each task to idle machine from the pool. Sir, when it assigns tasks to different machines, so does all the machine have the same computing power? It means, are they heterogeneous or homogeneous in nature?
It could be heterogeneous. It is not necessarily has to be homogeneous, right? So it is heterogeneous. That is the reason, as I said, some machine probably compute faster, and some probably some machine may lag behind, right? So yeah, so it could be heterogeneous. I mean, because also having homogeneous system is not always possible, right? Because the things for some computer, things getting some of the things keep getting probably, for example, when you started the system, it has say 4 GPUs. Over the time, probably the 4 GPU has probably destroyed, right? Probably stopped working. Similarly, you may have probably we started, you probably have several disks, probably some disk may have stopped working, right? So yes, it will be mostly heterogeneous, and that's why you need to assign a task in such a way, yeah, so based on the capability, so that whichever computer probably compute first, you may give more tasks as compared to the one which is lagging behind. You can take the task from that machine and assign to others.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay. So that's why we need to do some parallel tasks. So we will use 2 set of parallel tasks, one on the parser side, one is the inverter side. So parser is mainly when you have given, because in case of indexing, right? So first part is involving parsing, where you scan all the document that you have, and based on the different terms, you need to create the pairs. So you need to create the key value pairs, where the key will be the token ID and the value will be the document ID, right? In this way, the parsing, during the parsing process, you can keep creating such pairs. As part of the inverter, it is basically the kind of merging thing. So inverter is a kind of synonym of the merging method that we have discussed earlier. So where you have all, where basically you have all parsing. After the parsing, you have the different key value pair, that is the token ID and the document ID pair. So you need to merging. You need to keep merging. Yeah, I know you have some questions. Anubhav? Anubhav, do you have any question? Okay.
No, sir. No, sir. Sorry.
No issue. Yeah, similarly, so how it works, so basically we break input document collection into the splits. So that split depends on how much clusters size you have. So each split is a subset of documents corresponding to the BSBI and the SPIMI2 indexing technique that we have discussed earlier. So this is the whole data flow work like. So this particular indexing, in case of like distributed computing, distributed indexing, it is based on a framework called MapReduce. So it has 2 phases. One is the map phase, and the second part is the reduce phase. So as part of the map phase, so as you can see here, so you have the masters, you have the different parser. So different parser you can think of as a, you can say the different computers you have in your cluster. So assigns, basically the master assigns the input document that you have to all parsers. For example, this is assigned to this is assigned to this is assigned to this parsers. In this way, you can divide the work among the different parsers. And the parser role is basically to create the different segment files. So for example, basically here, as I said, you need to create a pair of token to document, right? So in this case, A to F. So all the tokens, probably the starting from A to F, will be probably part of this segment file. Similarly, all the tokens starting from G to P is kind of, so in a way you can see here. So you have divided your task in such a way the parser keep creating the indexes, keep creating the, you can say, the pairs, token to document ID using the first letter of the index, first letter of the term. So like in this case, if the term starting from A to F for this given parser and this given document, you need to basically keep track of this. Similarly, for G to P, you can have this. So in this way, if you see here, you'll have the, if suppose there is R segments, R parsers. So in that case, you will be having R segment files here, right? So in this way, once you have the segment file, the inverter task is simply to take take the segment file for different tokens. So like in this case, you have A to F. So A to F basically go to this inverter. Similarly, in fact, for all A to F, it will go to this inverter. And in this way, you can, since this particular segment file has a mapping of token, that is the A to F, to the document ID. The inverter basically the kind of merges all the segment file that you have for the given token. So in this way, this is the part of reduce phase. So in case of map phase, you are doing the parsing, all the document to the corresponding token and generate the token to document mapping. And as part of reduce phase, inverter basically kind of merges all the token and corresponding posting list. So in this way, you can see here, so you have the posting for A to F. Similarly, here you have the postings for G to P and Q to Z. So using this in a distributed manner, you create the indexing. Any questions here, Rahul?
So
No,
what
sir.
does the inverter do? I'm not clear about that.
So inverter role is, you can think of as a kind of merger role. So it's doing the merging. So for example, you can see here this particular inverter take all the terms and its posting from parser one, that is the computer one. Similarly, for parser 2, that is probably it has some other set of files, right, set of documents. So it takes the terms and the corresponding posting list and give it back to the same inverter. So basically the same inverter, or you can say the one inverter or merger, will be responsible for some set of tokens. So like this particular inverter is responsible for all the tokens starting from A to F. Similarly, second inverter will be responsible for merging all the documents for terms starting from G to P. Same for probably Q to Z. So for example, in this case, you have used 3 inverter. It could be probably variable, right? It depends on what size you want.
Excuse me, sir.
Correct, sir.
Yeah, Kancha.
Does the parser do it in a sorted manner? Like the parser is doing from A to F. So all those A to F tokens are sorted or not necessarily be sorted?
Yeah, you need to keep it sorted, right? That's how basically it will help you in the indexing later on.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So the parser basically what it does. So again, just writing down what we have discussed. So parser basically in case of parser component, so master basically assigns a split to an idle parser machine. So parser reads the document at a time and emit term to document ID pair, which I was referring. So once you have the term ID pair, so parser write pair into J partitions, right? So that partitions is basically as you have seen here. So each partition is for the range of the term first letters. So for example, in this case, J equal to 3, that is you divided into 3 partitions. So first partition from A to F, second partition from G to Q, P, and third is the Q to J. So in this way, you can complete the indexing. So once you've done this, the next task is to complete the index inversion. That is this part. And this is how you do the inverter. So all the inverter collect all the term document pairs, that is the postings, for one term partition, that is from A to F. You collect all the term ID pair, right? And in this way, basically you collect all the term ID pair, and then finally sort it and write to the posting list. So in this way, basically you have all the posting list from all the segment files, and finally the inverter sort it and store it. Is this clear?
This means that we have to have as many inverters as we have the partitions, right?
Right. We need to have as many as inverter as compared to, no, sorry. Inverter will be the number of partitions. So in this case, you have the partition of 3 partitions. So you need 3 inverter. So did you ask the same?
Yes, sir. So but partitions, like, it would depend on the document, right? So how are we fixing that these many partitions would exist?
No, it depends on you. So for example, if you see here, so A to F is just probably 6, right? Or probably Q to Z is again very less, and probably this G to P is kind of very large range of inverter that you have. The reason being, probably you fix this number based on probably in your document, probably the tokens or you can say the term starting from A to F is very, very big. So that's why, I mean, despite this range is small, but the posting size is quite big, right? So because you also need to maintain a kind of how big the posting size you can manage, you can probably process. So that's why probably based on probably the frequency, or based on, you can say, the posting size, you have probably come up with okay, so probably this inverter, probably the partition that you have made is from A to F, then G to P, and Q to Z. So it depends on the type of data that you have, and it also depends on your processing power. So for example, even if you feel, I mean, you're not able to process this, you may need to probably have more partitions. Okay.
Yes.
The number of parsers may not be equal to the number of splits, because we won't have that much processing system.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's why probably because the number split will be very high, right? Number of split might be kind of very. So and as I said, I mean, it might be the case. Some computer is very fast, so you can probably assign more than one split to the person. I mean, probably he's finished first, and then probably it depends on up to you. You may keep same as well. You may keep different, but in most cases, I think it won't be the same, because it depends on your processing power and probably how the master assigned it. Okay. So this is just an example of how the index is created. So C here is the short form for Caesar, and C8 is the short form for concurred. Okay. So in this way, you have document 1, which has Caesar came, Caesar concurred. Document 2 has Caesar died. So in this way, basically you have Caesar, document D1, came, document D1, Caesar again, document D1, and concurred, document D1. And similarly, you have Caesar, document 2, and died, document 2. So this is the part of the, if you recall, this is the part of what? So what it is doing? Wait a second. So if you recall, this is doing map, right? So this is doing the creating those token to, you can see the term to document mapping. So this is the map part. The next part is the reduction. So it's kind of parsing part, and this is the inversion part. So this is what you're doing in the reduction. You are doing inversion. So like Caesar came in document D1, D1, and D2. So since frequency may help you in some way, so you can keep the frequency as well. So this can be further reduced to Caesar basically came twice in document 1 and once in a document 2. Similarly, died has came once in a document 2, and so on. In this way, basically you can create the index. Is it clear? Okay, I hope. So in this way, basically you can do index construction. So in index construction was just in one phase. Another phase could be transforming the term partition index into a document partition index. So whether you want to partition based on the terms or partition based on the document. So based on the basically the experience, based on the what most search engine does. So they basically do the partition based on the document indexing, and which basically help them in better load balancing and so on. So in a way, basically they're doing partition based on the different document you have and divide it to the different computer. So for example, in case of document partition, so one machine handles a sub range of document, and in case of, I hope you can see here the, if you are going to use term partition, it is going to basically increase the size. Basically it is going to basically increase the work for probably, especially if you have the big amount of documents and so on.
So could you explain this again? I'm not very clear on this.
Okay. So while creating the index, so what I'm saying, there are two ways you can do so, right? One is the term partition, another is the document.
Is this about the map part or the reduced part? Like
map part.
Okay.
Right. So for example, suppose you're dividing the work, right? So if you only look at the term, right? So you need to basically to the same computer, in a way you need to probably assign all documents, right? Or you can say the part of documents. So in a way, each computer is going to handle all documents, right? But in case of document partition, so I mean, you are just bothering about only the considered subrange of document and probably whatever the terms they have. So you don't probably focus or probably bother about all the terms which should be there. You probably only focus on the set of document that you have. So that basically help you, as I said, it's a better load balancing, that is dividing the task for the master node to the different parts. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So as part of the MapReduce, this is it's a kind of index construction algorithm which are described in an instance of MapReduce in the previous few slides. So MapReduce is a kind of very popular paper by Dean and Kemwath in 2004. And by the way, 2004 is the year when one of the very biggest social media company has formed. Which company?
Facebook.
Facebook. Yeah, I just saw news. I mean, I think it was their anniversary yesterday, right? Yeah, so Facebook started in 2004, I guess on yesterday. Anyways, yeah, so MapReduce is a kind of robust and conceptually simple framework for distributed computing, and without having to write code for distributed part. And basically they describe the Google indexing system. And in this way, basically Google has immediately employed, you can say, the MapReduce. And in this way, they were able to basically handle a huge amount of web scale data that we have. So these are just some schema for index construction. So it's more about, as part of the map, they have an input and they create the kind of list of key and the values. So value is the document here. And as part of the reduce, if you recall, I mean, you have the key and the list of posting list that you have, you need to probably produce the output for that. It's for instantiation of the schema for index. So for starting, so for collection, you will have the list of term ID and the document ID. As part of the reduce, so you'll be having term ID and the list of document ID. So this is kind of your term. You have this list of postings. So that this example we have just covered. So if you see, I mean, this is the schema is nothing but try to depict this. So with this note, I think we have finished the distributed computer indexing. So the next part is the dynamic indexing. And why do we need dynamic indexing? Any guess?
So documents would be added and removed, like basically like all the summary statistics we collect, the terms and the related documents, like they are subject to change. So we sort of like need to update our indexes frequently.
Right.
And we can't do it as a batch job every time. Like
very nice. Very nice. So if this is the case, because as you rightly mentioned, in real life, right? I mean, whatever all the document data that you have, that keep changing frequently, right? So like some new document is added, some new document, or probably some existing documents are deleted, or even probably some documents are modified, right? So it means the documents or probably all the data that you have is dynamic in nature. If the data is dynamic in nature, then probably indexing will also has to be, right? Otherwise, probably if you have the data which is dynamically changing, and if you keep the old indexing, then what will be the issue?
Retrieve wrong documents, like
wrong data.
Yeah, it will probably it will basically give you the wrong retrieval and so on, right? And often probably it will try to retrieve a document which is not available because which is got deleted, right? So definitely, I mean, you need to have the dynamic indexing. So does it mean that every time one document is added, every time one document is deleted or modified, we need to create the indexing again? Is that you mean?
So we may update the indexing rather than create it again.
Okay, so you're saying we need to update the indexing rather than creating. So do you think, I mean, every time one document is added, deleted or modified, we need to update the indexing?
We need to update the posting.
because there only the data is, I mean, the mapping is it is added or removed.
So,
sir, I think it would depend, like if some terms, like basically we have a lot of relevant documents, like for example, if we build a search engine for coronavirus, then we might have like a lot of documents. So maybe we could have some kind of threshold based on ranking. Like if the top 10 or top 15 documents are not affected, probably we don't reindex. Maybe some heuristic like that. I'm not sure, but something of similar sort.
Yeah, nice. Any other comments from anyone?
So we can have two indexes, like one for the new documents, and then when we search, we can merge these. We can go through both the indexes by merging both the indexes.
Very nice. And when you have to basically merge them, what should be the point when you decide to merge?
Like the reduce part, when we search, then we can go through or run through both the merge of both through indexes.
Any other comments? Any other comments from anyone?
When the index which we are making for the new documents, it crosses a limit, size, then we can merge. Like we can have a size for it, and at point when it crosses that limit, then we can merge it to the first index, our main index.
Yeah, very nice. So yeah, so definitely we are going to very right direction. Anybody want to add anything else? Yeah, good to see. I mean, very nice feedback and probably the responses. Anyone want to add anything else? Should I try some random name? Okay, nice. So let's go ahead with the probably rest of the slides, and probably we'll keep bothering other students in between. Yeah, so as you rightly mentioned, so up to now we have assumed that the collections are static, but this is not the case in real life, right? So so that's why they rarely documents come in over time and need to be inserted. Documents are deleted, modified, and something, right? So this means that the dictionary and the posting list have to be modified, because you cannot provide the stale information. You cannot provide the stale document, right? Or probably wrong document. So you don't have any other choice than updating the, or you can say the modifying the posting list and probably the terms dictionary that you have. But these comes with, you can say, the additional work. These comes with probably additional load on the system, right? And so, but as we don't have a choice of ignoring these changes, so we have to address them. And how we can address them, we have to think about how basically the optimal, how we can do so in an optimal way, right? So some of the optimal way, some of you have suggested. For example, as Farya has suggested, like you can keep wait a second. Yeah, so as Farya suggested, what you can do, you can do basically keep track of two lists. So one is basically having keep track of all the new documents which are probably modified documents, and you can basically add a list. So this is about when a new document is updated. How you can keep track of when a document is deleted? Any guess? So the way, I mean, if any document is updated or modified, you can, as you mentioned, you can keep track of a list which basically you can, that's called, you can say specifically that list is called auxiliary list. So you have an auxiliary list which have basically the pointers to the documents which are added or modified. What you can do for the deleted things? What are the files if some file is deleted? How you can deal with such thing?
So we can mark those, like so like we can maintain some index to mark which have been deleted.
Okay, and what name should we give to such list?
Like we can maintain some like invalid bit or something.
Exactly.
Like we
So
have.
yeah, you very rightly mentioned. So
Yeah.
usually, I mean, it's called invalidated lists, kind of. Yeah, so they are invalid. You need to probably ignore them. So the simplest approach, as we have discussed, so like maintain a big main index, right? And so if something is kind of new or document is added, so simply what you can do, you can have small auxiliary indexes. So if some new document is added, and search across both and probably the merge the results. In case of deletion, as you rightly mentioned, so we may have some kind of invalidation bit vector for deleted documents, and using that bit vector, you can simply do the and see if this document is deleted. I mean, in the recent changes, simply you don't have to give that document, despite that is available in your main index. So that is filter documents output on a search result by this invalidation bit vector, and periodically simply you need to reindex onto, and yeah, so you don't have this choice, right? I mean, you'll have to do this, but how periodically, that you can take a call based on the size of your index list, auxiliary indexing, or probably it also depends on what time your system don't have much work to do. So for example, can you guess when probably the Google might be doing this, I mean, updating the indexes periodically? Do you know the frequency for Google or something?
Sir, in the morning, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., something like this time.
But 5 a.m. here will be probably a working time, say in US or probably other part of the world. How you can do so in that case?
Sir, we can choose depending on the localization.
So it might be the case. I mean, you need to update. You may need to update based on the geographical location as well, right? So probably one data center update, and once it done, it will probably share with other data center, because often in case of data center, they have the duplicate copy of most of the things, right? And why do they have duplicate copy of the data?
So in case of rollbacks, if rollbacks are needed, in case of like bad data or bad updates, so they might need an existing working copy which they can like serve to the customer.
Very nice. Anything else? Anybody want to add?
In case there is failure of one disk, other one is present immediately. That's why.
Yeah, and often happens. I mean, usually when do they have duplicate copy? They keep it very, very far apart. So for example, suppose if one copy is in India, one data copy in India data center, then probably others in US. And why do they keep very far apart? Any guess?
So that if two parts of the world, I mean two parts which are far apart, wanted to access data, they get the data without losing much latency.
Very nice. Any other thing? Why?
Sir, to prevent the disaster, to prevent the files from natural disasters.
Exactly.
Or
So
some
often happens that natural disaster happens, right? I mean, it's not just a disk failure or something. Probably everything has just collapsed. For example, as you know, I mean, there are many data center which are inside the sea, right? There are some data center which is kind of, I don't know whether it's some iceberg or something, right? So if you have, I mean, it might be the case some natural disaster happen and you cannot fix it. So the best way would be just use the replicated copy from other place, and that's why you need to keep it far apart, so that so that natural disaster may not have probably much impact on other copy of the data that you have. Because in case of current era, right, data is everything. So for example, one common thing you might have seen, all the big companies now releasing all the source code they have. So for example, Google keeps sharing with their all source code. For example, similarly, Facebook keep releasing all their source code. Baidu, name any company, all the big company releasing their source code. But still, they don't basically fear much if their business is in probably may lose something. Why do they keep sharing code? Any guess? So definitely not all code, but probably there are many, like if you see, I mean, so for example, Facebook, they share the wave to wake, which is kind of very popular embedding. Similarly, I mean, there's word to wake, which is kind of shared by the people. Similarly, I mean, there are many companies that keep sharing, I mean, not only the pre-trained model, but also probably often they're sharing the source code to access. For example, Deep Speech 2, that is one of the very popular model by a company, which isn't been used for ASR.
So,
What do you think is the key? Is the key is the source code, or probably the technique they have built, or something else?
So one thing might be to promote research, and also it's sort of like it is indirectly crowdsourcing. Like other people might solve more interesting problems which these companies can leverage like
Right.
easily into their own internal systems.
Anything else?
So to develop the world.
Contribution to the software community like that.
Yeah, that could also be reason. Another reason is that, I mean, definitely all those points that you mentioned is correct. But another one of the major reason these days, who owns the data is the king, right? Because despite you get access to the code or probably the project, right? You will not get access to the rich data they have from their customers. Probably, for example, be it Google, probably Facebook, or be it Alibaba or anyone. They keep share even Baidu, right? They keep sharing the code because they know, I mean, it is not possible for normal people or probably the small companies to get access to such a huge amount of data, and which is the key. Because even though you have the code or probably you have the all the stuff with you, without data it is of no use. Because with just significant less amount of data, I mean, that is not going to make a huge impact. I mean, that is another reason. And in addition to what you have already mentioned, definitely to promote research, to promote probably collaborative environment and other stuff as well. So issue with main and auxiliary indexing. So there are several issues, like, so problem of frequent merges. So again, you touch stuff a lot, so which is an issue, right? So poor performance during merge, because yes, it is not that easy, and as well as often the merging is not that efficient. So actually merging of the auxiliary index into the main index is efficient if we keep a separate file for each posting. But is it possible? Do you think it is possible for you to keep a separate file for each posting? Because for merging, I mean, if you have the separate file, it's very easy for you. Simply just merge them, right? Any guess? I mean, do you think it's an efficient way of doing so? Definitely in this way, the task will be simple, right? You simply have to take the separate file and simply merge it, or kind of just append it. So as mentioned there, right? So it needs a lot of files, which is inefficient for OS. So probably I can give an example. So what if you send a 1 GB file over the network from source A to B, and you send probably just 10 MB file of and their sum is probably 1 GB, the same size. Which one probably take more time to send? One compressed file, one file which is of 1 GB, or probably several files, and their total size is 1 GB. Which one will take more time?
So several files.
Right? Because of the most costliest operation is the input output and so on, right? So that's why when you are working with you can say the on network, so people recommend you to send data. I mean, suppose if you have to send 10,000 files, better compress them into one file and send, rather than sending 10,000 files. So just keep that in mind. Even you can think of doing this when you are probably working with the server access which we give if required, right? So instead of sending, so often, I mean, when you deal with data set, you say, for example, you'll be having, say, 1 million data, 1 million file, right? So if you're going to transfer those 1 million file just by file to file, I mean, it is going to take a huge amount of time. So just think about this, always compress the file and send it, and decompress once it is received. So another possibility could be, I mean, yeah, just keep one index. So as part of this probably course and probably this lecture, we assume that index is just one big file and we have all the document there. So in reality is kind of use a scheme somewhere in between split very large posting list and collecting posting of length 1 to 1 length 1 in one file. So it's kind of, you often also come up with a trade-off between those. So rather than just having each file for one posting list or probably just one index for whole file, right, you may probably think of some trade-off between that as well. So in basically real life, many companies probably use that trade-off, how to basically deal with when you have the main and auxiliary indexes. So how you can efficiently do the merging, because we have seen the merging is an issue, right? So if you look at into the book, if you're going to do the merging in normal ways, it is going to take much time, and that is very inefficient. So the efficient way of merging is a logarithmic merging, which has mentioned in the book. So if you want, probably go into the details. So probably it is try to maintain a series of indexes, each twice as large as the previous one. So, and what will be the size of indexes in different? So it depends on how frequent they are. So like at any time, some of these powers of 2 are instantiated. So like in this case, suppose you have larger ones, I0, I1, I1. So they try to keep in the power of 2. So probably let me show the example. I think that will be easier. So like in this case here, so you have index size in terms of n, 2n, 4n, 8n, 6n, 16n. So in this case, you have first index Z0, second index I0. Similarly, Z0, I0, that is the twice in size. And similarly, I1, that is probably of, okay. So yeah, so we have to probably check this now. So the idea is to basically we want to probably have the indexes in such a way that is probably every time it is double, so that you can apply the logarithmic merging here. So you need to basically keep smallest Z0 in memory, and the larger ones would be I0, I1 on disk. So if Z0 gets too big, that is greater than n, write to disk as I0 or merge with I0 if I0 is already exists in Z1. So in this way, basically either write merge Z1 to the disk I1, and if no, I1. So I would recommend to probably have a look on this. So I haven't gone into much details of this merging, but yeah, so details is given in the book, and if you require, probably we can cover in the next class again. So this is very briefly, probably we can have a look here, and yeah, so if required, we can go again in the next class, but you can have a quick look here. So you have logarithm merge and token. So the idea is every time you have the merges, and you need to look at what are the previous indexes there, and you need to update the indexes. Okay, so yeah, probably I will be skipping this today. We can go into the next class if you want. And finally, the further issues with the multiple index. So collection-wide statistics are hard to maintain. And example, when we speak all spell correction, which is of several corrected alternatives, do we present to the user? So we may want to pick the one of the most hits. So the idea is, how do we maintain the top ones with multiple indexes and invalidation bit vectors? So one possibility is that ignore everything but the main index for such ordering. So in this way, probably you can do, we can go into more details. So I think I will stop here today because this part I have to probably go into details more before I cover. So any questions here before the logarithmic merge? Anyone? Okay, so if not, then probably we can quickly discuss, probably since some people have joined later. So let me repeat again. So from next week onwards, we will be having presentation, and we will be sharing the guideline letter today. And we will be randomly assigning which group we will be giving presentation. And yeah, so the group presentation need not necessarily has to be your course project that you'll be doing. It could be anything. You probably, we will let you know. Ideally, I think we can just select some papers for course presentation, and for group project, I mean, yeah, so you have already selected what you want to do, and that you'll be doing the next. And I believe,
sir, yes,
yeah.
Sir, before the presentation, can we discuss with you, if we have an idea for any projects, can we discuss with you before the presentation?
No, I did not get. So you asking the topic for presentation, or are you
Yes,
asking?
yes, sir. Topic and methods for the presentations. Like if we have some other methods not related to the papers, so can we discuss with you?
No, you can discuss with me, that are not an issue, but the idea of the presentation is you just take any existing work, right, and probably discuss on the some of the parameter we ask you. So definitely one parameter you can ask by yourself. In fact, we will ask you to. So you discuss what has been done in that paper, and probably you can add a slide or two to suggest, okay, so what are the changes you may make, or probably at least discuss what might be the issue with the existing work. Right?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm asking. Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, so please finalize your group project by this week and start working early on the proposal, which is due, I believe, sometime after a week or 10 days. So please complete that on time and take the due help of TAs, or probably set up a meeting with me if required. But first try to meet up with your TAs. So how many of you have attended the doubt clearing session in the last week? Anyone? Because all TAs are having doubt clearing session once in a week. So you have already assigned some TA as a group mentor or something. So please fully utilize that. So let me show the list. I think you're already aware. So for example, Dikshant is taking on Thursday. So for example, Monday is this one. So anyone from group 1, 2, 3, 4, 7?
So
Yeah, so Divisha and probably others. So do you have anything to discuss? Did you attend the last week's doubt clearing session?
yes, sir, we did.
Okay, very nice. So was it useful?
Yes, sir, we discussed with him our possible project ideas.
Sure. Yeah, so feel free to, I mean, for everyone in the groups 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Yeah, so please attend such session and ask any question not only related to the project, but you can also ask any other topic that we are covering in the course, and which probably required greater discussion. So please feel free to discuss with them. And I have also shared a form, so if you can share, fill that form before probably attending, so this will be easier for them to probably find the probable answer. Similarly, we have the doubt clearing session every week for different groups. For example, group 27, 28, 30, 32, 33. So we have session on Thursday. Similarly, for these groups as well, we have session on Thursday. So today we have session by Pragya as well, again, group 6, 8, 10, 13, 23, 42. Anyone from these groups? Anyone from these groups? 6, 8, 10, 13, 23, 42. So we don't have any student from here. Osin is here, right?
Yes, sir. We arranged a meeting separately, not in this slot.
Okay.
So we've had 2 meetings with her and we've discussed our project.
Okay. Okay, great. So yeah, so please feel free to attend whoever is your TA, who is your group mentor, set up a meeting with them. Ideally, you can also attend this meeting where a detailed discussion can happen. But if probably this time is not enough, then probably set up another meeting with the or her with the TAs, and I'm sure they will be very happy to help you. Okay, then thank you so much everyone, and let's meet.
Sir, can you tell about the quiz?
Yeah, regarding quiz, wait a second. So when we have quiz, if let's see. So mid-sem, when is the mid-sem? Is it in somewhere? So next week we are going to assign you the assignment 1, by the way. I mean, though we are running a bit late, but so in the next week we will be giving assignment 1. And regarding quiz 1, let's do one quiz before the mid-sem, and I will let you know 1 week before. So for example, if we will be having quiz, in next week, I will let you know by later today, right? So at least I will try to inform you before a week. And regarding assignment 1, you will get assignment 1 in the next week. And I do plan to have only 1 quiz before the mid-sem. So I don't want to have so many quiz. So probably 1 quiz before the mid-sem. I think the mid-sem is somewhere in first week of March. Is it so?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you may expect tentatively in the next week, we will be giving assignment 1, probably 10 days with 10 days or 2 week time. And probably we will be conducting quiz 1 a week after that. So what we will do, we will get back to you later today after discussing with the TAs when the assignment 1 is due, when is the quiz 1 is due, and we will be sharing the details. Okay. And with this note, yeah. So what do you, I just want a kind of quick feedback or something. So are you fine with this pace? Are we going fast? Are we going slow?
No,
Sir,
sir,
actually, sir, it's fine, but I'm not able to understand the concept properly. Suppose it's like getting theoretical. So how do we approach so that we can understand practically also these things?
Yeah. So the best part would be, I mean, you need to do that, and practical. That is the reason we need to do the coding as well, and that is why we will be giving assignment 1 next week, which will help you to basically implement what you have theoretically learned, right? So that will basically help you to probably get a more deeper insight. What are the things we have discussed and how it is being in practice? Okay. Yeah, Rahul, Meena, I guess you are saying something.
No, sir, I'm saying thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So we are having a N-1 policy in quiz, right?
Yeah, we can have 3 quiz, not an issue. The thing is, if it's all about what you guys want, right? Do you want overloaded with number of quiz, or
so this happens that some people are not available, or the internet issue, and like it happened with us. So okay, we have one latency that one
yeah,
quiz.
we will do. I mean, as I said earlier, so probably we will be giving 3 quiz, and we will consider best of 2.
And for assignments?
For assignment, I mean, there is internet issue is not a, I mean, issue, right? I mean, you will have 10 days, 10 days or 2 weeks time to complete. So ideally you will have enough time. So there won't be actually this won't be possible in assignment, right? You'll have to complete assignment.
The assignment will be individual only.
It will be group assignment, but in the group assignment you'll have different tasks. You can say a group assignment will have 3 tasks or 4 tasks. So I leave it up to the group how they are going to divide it among themselves. Okay, so those who want to learn, yeah, you can say, okay, so yeah, we are going to complete everything. So that probably other group members can focus on the group project. Yeah, again, it's all up to you how you are going to divide the work among yourself. And for learning purpose, everyone can do everything, right? Not an issue. Any other comments, questions, suggestions? Okay, so I believe not. Then thank you so much, everyone. No beach today. Oh, no, there is no beach today.
Okay.
Okay, then thanks everyone. Bye bye. Take care. Have a nice weekend.
Bye. Bye.